Alrighty, here we are in MyMathLab tutorial part 2. And we've gone through how to enter some answers and how to fix answers even if we get them wrong. Let's say you're sitting at this problem and you're thinking, rats, I don't know how to do it. I'm not sure. Well, there are a whole bunch of options over here available to you on the right-hand margin. So let's go through some of them. First one is Help Me Solve This. Let me click on that. Now, Help Me Solve This guides you through this exact problem. Be careful, it only guides you through the by hand method, which, as you'll discover, we don't use that often. So that's kind of a little bit irritating, but there's no real way around it. So it's waiting for you. You've got 3 parts left, right? And it's waiting for you to figure out what 15 squared is, which is 225. Enter. Yay, I got it right. So you can click OK, or you can just press enter, and then now you click continue, and now I've only got 2 parts left, and you've got to find the sums here and here and so on. Again, this is a by hand method. Be careful with this because it can sometimes be more confusing than you really need. It also helps just to look, if it's asking for variance and standard deviation, go look at the Excel tutorials I put up online to see if those will help you. Then there's the view an example. Click that. It's the exact same thing as Help Me Solve This, but it actually fills in everything for you. Again, it only shows by hand methods. Obviously, they have to do that. There's like 5 different types of technologies they can show, and they just can't do that. So they have to stick with the by hand method. Close. One thing to note is that when you do Help Me Solve This, it actually changes the numbers when you close it to a different data set. When you do View an Example, it won't do that because the numbers in the View an Example are different than the numbers in the Help Me Solve This. So keep that in mind. Help Me Solve This will actually change the numbers of your problem. View an Example will not. But some students like the Help Me Solve This feature, some students like View an Example. You use whatever makes you happy. Next, let's suppose you think, oh, if I could just look at the book for that page. You can click on Textbook, and it'll open up the ebook. Over here it's opening it. Going to take it a second. Right there. To section 3.2, right? So you could browse through here, see how the book does it. If you keep going, you'll eventually get some problems that use some kind of technology like Excel or Minitab or something like that, or the calculator. So there's that. That's the textbook. Oops, wrong link. Then there's the video. You can click on video, and that'll open up a video of somebody lecturing on the material. Oops. There he was. That's the author. That's Michael Sullivan. He will lecture on the material about sample variance and sample standard deviation. That might help you figure it out. Not every problem has a video. Only some problems do. So take that for what it's worth. Next is StatCrunch. Let me click there for a second. StatCrunch you're honestly not going to need very often. Only occasionally will you need it, namely for quartiles in Chapter 3 and box plots in Chapter 3 and a little bit later on. It opens up, you can see, an applet. Yes, just trust the content and run it. It's going to open up a Java applet that looks like Excel but doesn't work nearly as nicely as Excel. And you'd have to type in these numbers, oopsie, from the problem yourself. So you'd have to figure it out. 856. Let's go back. 8, enter. 56, enter, and so on. Right? So you can, oops, I'm going to close these because you don't need to see these anymore. And you can keep doing that, and there are ways to get this thing to run data for you. I show you how to do that when it's necessary in the Excel tutorials. There's one for Chapter 3, the very end of Chapter 3 tutorials, that shows you a little bit about StatCrunch. StatCrunch is basically the poor man's version of Excel. We don't need it because you could just whip up Excel like this, type in those numbers right here, and find the variance and standard deviation that way. So occasionally StatCrunch will be helpful for quartiles. You can use it, but for the most part you're not going to need it. All right, I'll hit the bottom 3 in my next tutorial, so stay tuned.